Welcome to episode number 50 of Circles Off.
This is 50.
Episode number 50. Big bomb banger episode. Actually, this one's going to be a little bit more niche this week. We tend to avoid niche episodes, but this is very topical for us. Myself and Johnny, obviously, executive team of betstamp, and we are Ontario based. So this is a big week for us. A lot of the questions we're getting this week, both on our socials, from friends, even on randoms, even from randoms on Twitter and other social mediums, are related to regulation in Ontario. So we're going to cover it both from a regulatory aspect and from a strategy aspect. So there might be some stuff in this podcast that maybe you're not in Ontario. You can probably still get some takeaways because there's a lot of states in the US right now that are not regulated. But anyone who's watching right now is going to see an unusual setup with four of us in the studio this week. We have a couple other betstamp employees that we're going to bring to the table here. So what we want to get out of this episode is just covering everything that's going to happen in the province of Ontario over the course of the next few weeks, longer than that, from a this is actually what's going to happen standpoint. And then furthermore, we're going to get into a little bit more strategy discussion. And we understand that there's a very wide range of bettors. Myself and Johnny on one end of the spectrum, which are sharp. I mean, we just throw it out there. We're sharp bettors. We win money in the long run. And then there's going to be people entering the space that are more casual, maybe never placed a bet in their life before. Or we might have, the in-between who's, bettors that just want to know more about the market. So I'm going to bring in Jacob first, who's being thrown directly into the fire. Literally first week at betstamp.
Day three. And we put him on the mic here. So Jacob, introduce yourself and your background, and I guess what kind of bettor you are, if you even have any. Listen, when we hire at betstamp, we're not just looking for anyone involved in the betting space. We like to take people who are just in the sports space, turn them into bettors from the standpoint of educating them. So Jacob, just give a quick intro on yourself.
So obviously my name's Jacob. I make Raptors themed content on YouTube. So I'm definitely versed into the sporting world. And recently, I guess I've been a bit of a casual bettor for 1 to 2 years now, really learning the game, still learning every single day, having picked up just a few things, being here for just 3 days. And now that Ontario is going to start legalizing betting and we're going to be able to see maybe more books, I think it's important for myself to get a bigger understanding and a better understanding of how to manage my money. I would say, just from experience, I'm just in it for the fun. Obviously, it's more fun when you win money, but at the end of the day, it adds a new layer to watching sports. That's a lot more enjoyable for myself. So that's what I enjoy doing.
Perfect.
And which sports books are you using, Jacob?
Sports books, I was pretty much strictly Betway for the last year and a half. And in the last few days, I've put some on Bet99. I just put on Bet365, and I'm just starting to branch out a bit more with the knowledge of finding the best odds.
Perfect.
Good to hear.
Good answer, by the way. 3 days. Learned a valuable lesson already. All right, Josh over here, probably the most handsome guy in the office. I'm not scared to admit that. Pretty.
You never told me that before, Rob.
Introduce yourself. Josh has been with us longer than Jacob. He manages a lot of our internal programs. But Josh, same thing. Introduction on who you are, where you came from, and your style of betting.
Well, I got a job here not too long ago. I do a lot of social media stuff, work with the influencers, but I am definitely a more casual bettor. I try to convince myself that I'm more than that, but at the end of the day, I'm still learning a ton with it. I don't do it to, make huge sums of money. I do it to, like Jacob said, enhance the game watching experience, and it definitely does that for me. So learning how to do it better, obviously you're going to enjoy it more, and I'm always looking to improve like that. But I started off 6-0 in the DGen Fund, and then I go 0-7 on the Absolute Freezer, and I get an invite to the newbie podcast here, trying to teach everyone how to gamble. Like that's what happens when you go 0-7. So I could maybe take some lessons away from today.
Listen, you flip a coin 7 times, it's going to come up heads or tails 7 in a row. I mean, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but it's going to happen more frequently than you think. So we don't care about the short-term streaks. We just care that you're learning every day. Some concepts, and you can take that forwards. For those that don't know, DGen Fund, quick plug. If you do go to the Betstamp app and you go to the marketplace, hit up the DGen Fund, click follow. This is our internal program where we prove that in the long run, you can win money purely by line shopping.
anyone in the office can make a pick in the DGen fund. Anyone on any given day can say, I want to bet this game. I want to bet this player prop, whatever. We bet it at the best possible line in market, and we do track it in betstamp. We're up quite a bit over the course of the last year.
I'll pull the numbers right now.
I might have almost bankrupted us there for a moment.
Well, listen, we go on runs. I've had some bad runs as well. I mean, it happens. But I mean, we got lucky with some futures for sure. We are myself, and I don't actually know your guys' background, but myself and Johnny are like Italian Canadian. At least our parents are of Italian heritage. So we were riding Italy pretty hard during the Euros, which was nice for the DGen fund.
Oh yeah,
getting a lot of first goal scorer kind of stuff in there and mixing it up. But it is a pretty fun program that we run internally. What are the stats?
So the only rule for the DGen fund is one rule. The rule is whatever bet you want to make, you need to bet at the best number in the market. There's no exceptions. If someone suggests a play, we first ask them what sportsbook. If they list a sportsbook and they can't find, and someone else can find a better number elsewhere, they're toast. Banned from DGen fund from making picks for a couple of weeks. So that's the only one rule. Current stats right now, it's all tracked on betstamp, and you can follow it daily in the marketplace. Average bet size $797.07, and we're running pretty hot, just over 11.6% for a total profit of 19.3K. Goal is we want to get this thing up to 100K in the year. So we want to try to make it so that via the power of line shopping, having literally every single possible sportsbook that you can, we want to prove to you guys that just making picks with no edge, no models, no statistics going whatever you want to pick for the day could be your favorite team every night. We want to prove that you do have a shot to make money if you're line shopping, especially when you're looking at the futures in the props market.
Exactly. I mean, we're going to have to hit some more big bomb bangers like we did over the summer. I think we had a big golf winner in there too.
Big bomb bang.
We're going to have to hit a couple big bomb bangers. Absolutely.
Big bomb
We're
bang.
obviously waiting for the Leafs. Like if they get out in the first round, it's probably going to be a detriment to the DGen fund. If we get a Leafs Cup run here, we might bring this thing to 100K.
Even if the Raptors win a couple series, like that would be...
If the Raps win a series as well.
I could not envision a night where we do not have Raptors money line in the DGen fund.
We're going to bang the Toronto parlay. Raps,
Sir,
Leafs, Jays.
absolutely.
Raps, Leafs, Jays, and an occasional TFC on a four-team Toronto
Once
parlay.
Insigne arrives.
Toronto
once he
FC,
gets
in the summer when we get the Italian players.
All right. So off the rip, wanted to get into what is exactly happening within the Canadian market right now, within the Ontario market. But before I do that, I do need to give kind of like a little bit of an overview on how betting works currently in Ontario, as well as in other unregulated states. So, if you're in Ontario and listening to this podcast, you probably know a lot of people who bet. You probably know tens, hundreds of people who bet. And all those people have what they call like a betting site or a sports book. Now, in the current marketplace in Ontario, there's a few different ways to bet. The first is called what we call in the gambling industry, the pay-per-head industry, or PPH. Now, what this is essentially you might have a buddy or a guy from your high school or a bartender or someone who has like a local bookie, and they're like, yeah, like I'll set you up with a betting account. They give you an account. They've got like an agent login so they can track the bets. And what happens is it's just a group of guys that are, taking action. It is deemed illegal within Canada to do this. However, it is not illegal to actually place a bet via this method in Canada. I'm not a lawyer, so for anything, obviously consult with a lawyer if you are making these decisions. But based on our knowledge, it's not illegal to place a bet. However, when you are betting with these like local bookies, there's a lot of things that could come up, either bad or good. The good thing is they do offer bets on credit. So, if you hear of someone who's like, oh, I got paid out or I didn't get paid out, it's because, they don't actually collect money up front. They just, mark it on a sheet within the software. If you win, you get paid out. If you lose, you're supposed to pay. Obviously, that doesn't always happen, but that is kind of the whole pay-per-head industry of how that works, the PPH industry. And that's, if you see someone who has like a bookie or knows that, then that's kind of what that is. So for anyone listening, that's what that is. Any comments or questions from anyone?
Probably would have been our first experience with sports betting in Ontario. It was for me, probably for you, John.
I mean, I'm a little younger than you, so I had like a bunch of different sites off the rip.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. Like you always, people from your high school and from that, like, oh, give me a bookie account, or hey, you want to be a bookie? And for me, it was always no, but definitely know people who did.
So
go ahead.
So these are people who are just offering services of I'll present a line, you can take either side of it, and it's a really informal thing. This isn't some company that's backing it.
No, so it's literally going to be backed by like a group of people within here.
More often than not, I'm criminal enterprises. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Like you meet up with what's commonly referred to like a Johnny Knuckles, so to speak, at the end of the week to either pay up or they pay you. And if you can't pay up, there's probably going to be repercussions. That's just the way that the PPH world would work.
FYI, it's not something we would recommend at Betstamp or here. I'm just simply explaining kind of different things in the industry that happen right now. So this, by the way, like it's not like a guy's offering you a line on like a text message chat. There is a site that you log into. There's multiple different sites or skins, as people call them. And they're usually based offshore. So maybe like Costa Rica or Panama, Antigua, depending on where they may, have a license to accept gaming. And within these, with these sports books or with these paperhead books, the actual risk and the liquidity is backed by like an entity or a group, not a corporation or anything like that. So they just pay this website a fee. That's why it's called pay-per-head. They might pay $1 a head, $10 a head per person per month. Okay, it's $1 a person, and then they have 10,000 people. It's $10,000 a month that goes to that Costa Rican company, etc. Anything else to add, Rob?
That's just the most traditional. I would say most people's first venture into betting would come that way. Like Johnny said, there was really no issues with the bettor betting into PPHs or into offshores, which we'll talk about next. But it is illegal to run that type of bookmaking operation across Canada, and as far as I'm aware, across the U.S. as well.
And
Okay.
Do you need to meet with these people in person to get your winnings?
I mean, so nowadays I'm not, I don't really partake in this part of the industry, so it's tough to really know, but you could meet in person, send an e-transfer, whatever.
Yeah, I guess there's no standardized way to do it.
Yes.
That's the whole point. At the end, it's at the discretion of the people that are involved in that to settle in whatever way that they want to settle. There's usually agreed upon terms beforehand. There's usually agreed upon settle limits. So, for example, someone's not going to come up and meet you if you're up $4 at the end of the week, right? It's going to be a waste of a trip to a parking lot for you two guys to meet together. They're going to say, hey, let's roll this over to next week. But it's basically the wild, wild west of betting, if I could put it in any, apply any context to it.
Noted.
Yeah, not a space you want to be playing in, especially as a new bettor. So we'll skip that, but we do think it's important to kind of explain how that works. So second is what is called the offshore industry. Okay, so the offshore industry is, largely a black market operation to run. However, as mentioned, is not illegal to bet within Canada. So there are companies that set up offshore, and instead of having their, an organization collect the money, they incorporate a corporation or a company somewhere offshore. Maybe the Cayman Islands, maybe Costa Rica, maybe Panama. Different for all of them. And what happens is they will run their own site. They'll have their own trading team, and they will market their services to Canada and the US in a way that is illegal for them to operate. So examples of these companies that are considered black market offshore operators would be brands that you may have been very familiar with or heard of on a day-to-day basis, advertising. So one that everyone knows from advertising, especially here in Canada, is MyBookie, mybookie.ag, straight black market operator. You also have Bodog, you have Bovada, you have Bet Online, and you have a few other operators. Now, MyBookie, absolute scumbag site. Never play that. Never play there. Whatever. However, this is not just because they're a black market operation. Doesn't mean they're any worse or better than the regulated market. Doesn't mean they're any worse or better than the pay-per-head market. All it means is that they are operating their company offshore, and because they're doing so without a regulated license within Canada or the United States, the people and the big executives behind these companies would actually be subject to like criminal charges if they step foot in the United States, et cetera, et cetera. So these entities, example Bodog, example Bet Online, example MyBookie, will typically offer accept crypto or things like that because they can do it without a regulated agency and a governing body. And FYI, it's not like you're going to get stiffed if you play at these sites or if you do this. It's no guarantee of anything. All it is just another opportunity to play, and they operate without a license within Canada and the US right now. Anything to add, Rob?
Yes. So from a player perspective, if you're dealing with black market, or they would refer to themselves as gray market operators where the laws are not clear on what they can and can't do,
From a player perspective, you don't really have any recourse if something happens on one of these sites. So for example, if they just didn't want to pay you, there's really nothing you can do about it from a player perspective. There's no regulatory body that you can appeal to and say, hey, I'm up all this money, this site's refusing to pay me, because again, they're just operating in gray market. Now, some of these sites will also operate directly in Canada, but on native reserves as well. So we see this a lot in Quebec.
That will be a different thing that I'm going to go into.
Which we'll get to, which is more gray market as well. But the reality is that these are well-run sites for the most part. Obviously, with anything, there's scams and there's going to be poor sites. You'll see a lot of the black market operators accept crypto as form of payments because it's very easy on their front. Typically, anyone who's deposited into an offshore sportsbook from Canada before has probably had problems. You might have, I definitely have, where your bank just declines your credit card and says, no, you can't deposit here. This is a gambling transaction. Because of this, they're encouraging you to deposit with crypto. They're giving you crypto bonus. So typically you would get your bonuses in the form of crypto. That's how you can very easily tell who is a black market operator when you're going to deposit.
Okay. So you've got your paperhead operators, paperhead market. You've got your black market operators that are operating, offshore and illegally. And then in Canada specifically, which doesn't happen in the United States, you also have what's considered the gray market operators. And these gray market operators are not licensed with the government of Canada because up until a few months ago, there was no process to get licensed here in Canada. So they're not licensed. However, they do possess either a license or some sort of exemption from a native reserve, usually within Canada. So this is basically, and again, I'm not a legal expert. A lot of what I'm saying is not, it is what it is. I think it's accurate, but obviously check with a lawyer before you actually make decisions based on what I'm saying. But back in the day, the natives had, laws here in Canada where, they would gamble and stuff like that. And then when it was colonized here, the natives are able to operate within Canada and do the same things they were doing prior. So when you look at casinos and things like that, typically are on the native reserves because they don't require licensing from the government. They don't have to pay X amount of taxes and things like that. So companies that might, license on this native reserve and operate out of this native reserve do not need to possess a license with the government of Canada the government of Ontario in order to operate their sports books within Canada. So these operators are what's considered a gray area because they're located in Canada. Some still might be located offshore. You're able to play there. You're able to deposit in with e-transfer, credit card and stuff like that and not get blocked. However, they're not technically regulated with the actual government of Ontario or the government of Canada.
That's clear. Now, you two guys are target market. Anyone, anything that does not make sense to you so far? Or are you guys following along?
So far, so good.
So far following along.
So things are going to change on April 4th. Let's get into it.
Okay, so comparable to the United States now. Within the United States, they had the paperhead bookies, and they still do. They had the offshore bookies, black market, and they still do for some of them. And then what happened with the U.S. is, a law was repealed a few years ago in the United States. And now state by state, the governments in the U.S. are starting to legalize sports betting and open up a competitive marketplace where U.S., Canadian, European, any company can go apply for a license, pay money to the government, and be licensed in a green market where every single thing goes through the government, taxes are paid, everything's on the up and up. You have a governing entity and a regulated body to go to for a dispute, for an issue, a commission, so to speak. Companies that are in the green market, regulated space, 100%. Companies by the names of BetMGM, BetRivers, DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, PointsBet, the ScoreBet, Barstool Sportsbook, and other brands along those lines. So these companies were not operating in Canada under the gray area. They were operating only in licensed market. On April 4th, which is this upcoming Monday from when you're listening to this podcast, we will have those operators launch in Canada. And now we get a new set of sportsbooks right here in Ontario that are regulated. On top of that, all of the gray market operators are given a chance to apply for a regulated license. And what we've seen so far is that some of them, a lot of them, have already been granted an approval for a pre-license. So a lot of the gray market operators will be getting official licenses within Canada to now operate in the green. the operators who were in the US, DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, PointsBet, are going to be coming over to Canada and in Ontario with a green regulated license. And the offshore guys who, they're able to apply but are unlikely to get a license from the black market.
Right. So give some examples, I guess, of the gray market operators that we expect to be in Ontario on April 4th.
So gray market operators that have already been 100% confirmed in Ontario for April 4th would be operators by the names of Bet365, CoolBet, Leo Vegas, Royal Panda, to name a few. So they were already operating. You can go right now and open a Bet365 account. It's not April 4th yet.
I mean, Jacob said you're betting on Bet365
I
now.
made a
You
bet
did
on
that.
Bet365 today.
Okay.
Yeah. So Betway would be another example. These guys have their license. They have licensing like elsewhere, or, they're going with different, company structures in order to make sure they're getting the licenses. But you can go for a Bet365 account, open it right now. You can open a Leo Vegas account right now. You can open a CoolBet account right now. What's going to happen is on April 4th, that now becomes regulated. They pay a specific, tax, fee, structure, market access fee. And now there's a regulation, the AGCO, which is the Alcohol and Gaming Control Board of Ontario. And the AGCO now regulates this whole process. So if you have a dispute, you can go there. If you're a player, if you have a dispute as an operator, you can go there. And everything is now kind of on the up and up. No more stiffs, hopefully, not getting paid out.
Well, you
No
at
more
least have a
disputes.
regulatory body that you can complain to at this point.
Yep.
Like if a sportsbook had a problem and they said, we're not paying you for so-and-so reasons, you could then petition to the regulatory body or the government of Ontario basically to say, hey, I feel like I deserve to be paid for this situation. And at least there's a neutral party that's dealing on your behalf.
And go for a fair trial, so to speak.
Exactly. You can have an opportunity to plead your case rather than just never seeing your money, essentially.
Yeah. So Ontario is regulating not only for sports betting, but also for casino and poker sites as well. So you will see regulated casino sites, regulated poker sites, as well as all of these sportsbook operators also, for the most part, most of them will also have a casino side where you can just go over to Bet365 Casino, play some, dunk away some money on some online blackjack if you're feeling it.
Yeah, interesting question here. I know that in the US, at these big casinos, they do have a sports book actually on hand where you can go over, watch sports live, bet through television screens. Is that going to be happening in Ontario?
Great question. So that is one that, nothing's been formally announced yet or anything like that. My belief is that we will see physical sports books, but it's not going to be right away. You have to obviously build them up. You're going to see partnerships, I believe, with some current land casinos and things like that, where you would be able to have a big sports book. The actual sports book experience in the US, it's cool for like your first time, but it's not the greatest. Like it's kind of we have a luxury of being able to place bets from our phone, like from open up, place a bet right away mid game. The actual sports book itself is more of just like a bar setting. The physical like ability to go over the counter and pay for a bet and drop down the money, it's kind of a big hassle.
Have you guys watched games in like Vegas sportsbooks before at all?
Like in Vegas?
Yeah.
No.
No?
I never have, no.
Okay. Yeah, I think that I'm with Johnny. There's to each their own, right? Some people are just going to like an online betting experience. It's much more convenient. Obviously, you place it on your phone. For me, I've had so many, such a wide range of experiences at US like land-based sports books. Sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes you have a guy cheering next to you who's got like a $5 ticket on the opposite of your bet and you're like sweating $1,000 and you just absolutely want to murder this person who's like really loud. But I don't know. I kind of do like that sometimes. For me, one of the best sports experiences of my life was a few years ago. Was a playoff game between Jacksonville and Pittsburgh. It was the year that the Patriots beat the Jaguars to go to the Super Bowl, but the round before that was Jags Steelers.
Yeah.
I watched it at the Sportsbook, which is honestly not a great sportsbook, Cosmopolitan in Vegas on the Strip, but it was so divided 50-50, and it was such a high scoring back and forth game. Those experiences are like incredible. I would be absolutely floored if there are not land-based sports books within the next year in Ontario. I'd be very shocked if that doesn't happen.
Do you think that a market exists for that? Like, not necessarily, like even for a bar to open up a book. Like, let's say something like Boston Pizza where you can watch a bunch of games. What if they opened up a section where you could do some live betting? You're going to be there anyway for food. Open up a spot for live betting. Is there a market for that?
I absolutely think so. I absolutely think it will happen. Like pretty much every major sports bar in some capacity will partner with a sports book over time and actually be able to take bets on site. And it'll like some people will absolutely hate it because it's going to completely change your bar experience when everyone turns into a bettor, or so to speak. But there's so much money like at stake here, and so many. We'll get to this, but so many different operators who are going to be in market here that they are throwing around dollars to compete with one another, right? And definitely, I think you're going to see big partnerships with major cross-Canada companies, like a Boston Pizza. I think that's a great example, but also just individual sports books. Yeah. Obviously, in Toronto, we have Real Sports, which is right outside Scotiabank Arena, massive sports bar. There will undoubtedly be some sort of sportsbook partnership.
Nobody knows what any of these things are if you're not from Canada.
But you know what?
Like Boston Pizza, 100% is not.
So let's compare it to an American. What's like a cross country, similar American corporation?
Like an Applebee's.
Yeah, in a
maybe
sense.
a bit better, more high scale than Applebee's.
Boston Pizza? No,
Boston
Pizza is not the greatest.
Well, it depends on your perspective. I agree with you. I'm not here to slander Boston Pizza.
I am here to slander Applebee's, though.
Yeah. So. True. I don't know. I don't know what the comparable is because
there's one Boston Pizza in Niagara that is essentially a Dave and Buster's.
Yeah.
And that one is good, but the rest of them are not good.
Yeah, I guess it's a very similar feel to the Dave and Buster's dining part. Like minus the games, right?
Yeah. Boston Pizza is literally like it is what it is. It's like,
yeah, you're gonna go out, you're gonna pay for overpriced pizza and a good sports atmosphere, I guess. It's
a lot of options, not a lot of good options, but
Clearly,
a lot of options.
You've never ordered their jambalaya, I can tell.
From Boston Pizza?
That is actually probably the last thing I would ever consider ordering from a Boston Pizza.
Hey,
like,
man,
who
don't
is
knock
going
it till you try it?
If I want jambalaya, I'm not going to Boston Pizza.
And also, like, if I just sit down and I don't even know what I want to eat at Boston Pizza, and I saw jambalaya, and it even had like the recommended, like, chef's special symbol next to it, I still would never order.
You know, sometimes the waiter gives you the main menu and then the special on a little sheet. Yeah. If that was jambalaya, it's probably still would turn it down.
So,
all right, man.
So back to Jacob's initial question here.
Sorry,
like, do I think that there will be like stuff in Boston Pizza? I personally think that, you know, there might be a shot that there is, but I don't think you need it because everyone could bet anywhere as long as they have a phone.
Right.
And the majority of people, especially, and probably 100% of people who want to bet have a phone, have a cell phone that's either, you know, an iPhone or some sort of Android that has data on it that they can automatically bet from at any time. So when you have something like this, you can make any, like, your buddy's basement is now a sports book because you all go down there and you're like, Knicks are down. You're like, the Knicks are down to the Raps. Like, Raps are about to blow this. Let's bet on the Knicks. And then the Knicks come back. Raps are live dogs. Like, I'm hedging off and putting it on the Raptors. And you dunk the balance back, cash a middle or something like that. Like, that is a fun thing that you can now just have with your buddies in your basement. You could have always done that because we had sports books, obviously. But when it's regulated, one thing that picks up is obviously the advertising. Everyone's more into it right now. A lot of people are more or less concerned because, like, there are reputable payment methods now and you don't have to worry about money going in and out of your bank and stuff like that. So realistically, like, I don't think we need it at like a Boston Pizza, but physical sports books, there should be a few popping up. And the reality is it's more of an experience. It's more of a thing to do with your buddies. Like, let's go to the sports book and watch this game. Or like Maple Leafs are in the playoffs. Like, let's book game 6 and pay a cover to go to this sports book and pay a drink minimum or a food minimum and like go get a table at this sports book because you're just now watching it in a sweet environment or atmosphere. However, the actual betting portion of it, it's like we've talked about it. I think we talked about it in an earlier episode, but like when you bet over the counter at a physical sports book, what happens is you bring cash, you bring $100, you slap 100 down, you say, let me bet on the Leafs. Guy prints your ticket. Sometimes the line changes, like, oh, the line changes. Like, you don't see anything. There's no screen. Like, there's like a little odds board up at the side, which isn't.
It's not the same experience as on having your phone or your desktop.
Yeah, and then not to mention, like, he gives you a printout slip of the ticket, and like, if you lose that slip, you lost your bet. Mm-hmm. So like, think about how many people won their bet and lost their slip in the whole world in history. Billions, potentially trillions of dollars in lost slips.
Literally. There was an article, this is many years ago now, we're talking about a half decade ago, about a guy in the state of New York who made a living off of just going to the racetrack, horse racing, picking up slips off the floor entire day and just feeding them through the machine. and the guy made like 60,000 in a year.
Wow.
Just feeding because people think they lose. There's an inquiry or whatever. But yes,
think about how many people were in Las Vegas, bet a futures bet on their favorite college football team or something, or a college basketball team, went back home, misplaced the ticket because it didn't grade for like 18 months or 15 months, and then ended up winning the ticket and then lost it and couldn't cash it. And that was like a $50,000 cash. Probably so many people. So anyways, that doesn't happen on the apps. It's like much simpler. Even in terms of like getting money in and out, no one really wants to carry around. Like say you want to place a $5,000 bet. Like, do you really want to bring $5,000 with you on your person, walk into a sports book? Like there's a lot of concerns around stuff like that, okay, sure.
Well,
maybe 5,000 in a duffel bag.
You can actually fit 5,000 in your pocket, but some professional sports bettors out there think that you need a duffel bag to carry $5,000 around.
Yeah, 5,000 might be fine because you can fit 5,000 in a duffel bag, but 10,000 where you might need 2 duffel bags for that. So I don't know if you want to be walking around 2 duffel bags.
No one has any idea what we're talking about every single time we bring that up, except for one guy who messages me on Twitter every time, and he's just like, absolutely love that reference.
Explain what it is.
It's low key. Okay, I will explain what it is. We obviously do tweets that trigger us on this program. If this program was live, if CirclesOff was live at the time of tweets that trigger us, this definitely would have made it into a segment. But there is someone who claims to be a pro bettor named Simon Hunter, who I don't necessarily believe is a pro bettor. That's irrespective of what I'm going to talk about here. But he did like a segment on how he interviews runners for him to go to different sports books to bet on his behalf. Now, the whole idea of having a runner or beard or whatever at different sports books, the main reason someone would do that is they would put people at different sports books so that they can always get the best number. It's essentially a form of line shopping at a land-based sports book. So across Vegas, you might have someone in 10 different people in 10 different locations. So when you want to bet something, you'd quickly look up who has the best price. You'd get your runner there to bet it. Simon Hunter says he's hiring runners because he's lazy. He doesn't want to place the bets on his behalf. That's clue number one into his professionalism. But he also talked about how he goes through an interview process where he asked to speak to their mother for some reason. First of all, I'd never work for someone who asked to spoke to my mother, no matter how desperate the job was. But whatever, he goes through that interview process. And part of the reason he wants to speak to their mother in the interview process because he wants to get a gauge of how they were brought up, because he is handing them sometimes $5,000-$10,000 worth of cash in a duffel bag to go to place bets for him. Now, I've been betting a lot in my life. Granted, Canadian dollars are a little bit different than American. It doesn't matter. It's kind of relatively the same size. But I grew up betting in PPH accounts, which we talked about at the beginning, and I've had some big pickups in my life. You know what $5,000 looks like in terms of a stack?
No.
It is...
It's no
thicker than my phone, right?
In
here.
Hundreds, 5,000. That phone in hundreds is probably 10,000.
Maybe not, but regardless, you can put $5,000 in your pocket with absolutely no problem whatsoever. You could put $10,000. You would never, ever, even if you were carrying only 10s and 5s, you could probably fit it in your pocket and not in a duffel bag. It's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard in my life.
I have held $3,000 in 20s, 10s, and 5s, and it's about about
20s,
an inch and a half,
5s.
2 inch thick, and that's 20s and
like
10s.
I don't know if this guy's sending like his runners with $1 bills or something like that, but like definitely do not need a duffel bag for that amount of money.
He's like, I want to place a big bet. Pulls open a briefcase, opens it up. He's like, 5,000 on the Knicks. It's all one.
And the teller is counting it, and the bet goes off the board by the time they're even able to get it in. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So I do bring it up over and over and over because it's actually, it really bothers me.
Well, like you said, professional bettors, they want to look professional, and to an inexperienced bettor, wow, he's walking with duffel bags. He
Looks badass.
Yeah.
It looks cool.
How much do you need to put money in a duffel bag? Like, you need like $100K.
Yeah, no, but nor would you be. Yeah, I guess.
Like
I don't know the amount that I would need.
It depends the denomination of bills, but like, for example, like you could easily carry, like, if it's all in hundreds, you could easily carry 50 grand on your person.
Yeah, I've literally seen people with the travelers pouches. Like I've I haven't spent all my lifetime in Vegas casinos. I actually spend very little time in Vegas sportsbooks or whatever. Most of the betting I've done in the course of my life has been online. But there have been a lot of scenarios where I've been in a sportsbook for several days making big bets. And the reality is, I've never actually seen someone with a duffel bag. The biggest bets I've ever seen were those travel pouches, you know,
right?
Where because you're carrying a lot of money, you want to have it visibly attached to you at all times, and so no one can pickpocket you in front of you or whatever. And literally, you'll see people pull out a wad, which, you know, of hundreds, and it's probably like making a $50,000 bet, $100,000 bet, but it literally fits in a travel pouch.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so happy that with the regulated books coming as well, and then just the ability to, you know, transfer in via like bank transfer and have your balances all online. Like, I am excited. You know, I don't haven't dealt in the actual like physical cash game for a number of years, and it's much, much better. So even when we're talking about that as like, I don't ever want to carry cash on me. I rarely ever do. I never carry like anything above maybe like, you know, whatever. You might carry $200 in your wallet or something like that, but I'm never going to actually carry a large amount of cash, especially not when going to like a casino or something. So that alone is just like another four apps against in-person betting.
I think that's going to be one of the biggest advantages to Ontarians now going forwards is payment processing traditionally for betting in Ontario is such a pain. Like, we have 4 banks basically in Ontario, 4 major banks who dominate the majority.
Six.
Well, let's list them out. Who cares? There's mostly Canadians listening here, but
Scotia, TD, RBC, BMO, CIBC, and HSBC.
okay, HSBC, I'll argue, is very small here.
It's one of the only 6 that allows you to get a business bank account.
Sure. Okay, 5 major banks, let's say, in Ontario, but a couple of them are directly block any gaming transactions right now. So TD is one of them. I'm with TD. I've experienced this my whole life, where you go put in a TD credit card and they say, no, we're blocking your transaction. That will no longer happen as of April 4th. So that's huge now for people who want to bet on sports. You no longer have to deal with crypto. Like, I mean, listen, I'm very well versed in crypto. I have been my whole life. There's a lot of people who just don't want to buy a bunch of crypto to deposit to a sports book. Okay, Interac transfer. Like, this is just so easy for you to get money in and out nowadays. And the amount of options that I think Canadians are going to have available to them, this is where I think it's going to just be night and day relative to what we've seen over the course of the last, you know, decade, where people are just like, I can't get money. People go with PPH accounts and their local bookie because they can deal with cash. And lots of Canadians have been dealing with Proline. Over the counter.
Yeah.
You go get a ticket.
That's
for
one of my first experiences with betting.
Right, as it is for most
Canadians. I forgot to mention Proline as a betting option in Canada. My whole clip is done now.
Your whole clip is void.
There was one more option in Canada that was regulated by the government. Okay, I didn't mention it because it was just so trash in terms of an actual betting opportunity. However, they did have a licensed operator. One, it's called Proline. If for anyone who's in Ontario, obviously know what it is. You go to a convenience store or a gas station and you fill out a little Scantron-esque type sheet with a paper, HB2 pencil only. And the operator, like the guy or girl who owns the gas station or whoever's working at the station, will feed it through the runner, and then it'll give you a little printout ticket.
It's with OLG, right?
With OLG. The maximum amount you could bet it would be $2,000. It was like $2 to $2,000, and the minimum amount of games you had to bet per slip is 3. So you needed to bet everything with a 3-team parlay, and there was no money line. The max, you couldn't bet a team to win for like football or basketball. You had to bet them to win by 4.
It do spreads.
Hockey, you could do money line, but it was just such a high hold, static odd set, so you could still find some edges here and there, but it was such a high juice. Basically, like the spreads were anywhere in the range of like, you know, because you had to parlay. So you're looking at like a minus 50% ROI right away on your ticket.
Not to mention, anytime you actually did have an edge on a bet, you had to rush to bet it because you would go fill out the damn thing that would take you forever to fill out, slip it through, and then like the convenience store owner would be like, sorry, didn't work.
Max risk.
Max liability reached.
Yeah, that's because there was a bunch of sharp groups in Ontario who would go around and pick off all the ideas.
Well, so like one of the big things every week is you would want to bet against the Buffalo Bills if you're in Ontario. Because at a regular sports book, Buffalo would be like, let's just, random example, but Buffalo's -7 in their game. Proline's going to make them like -9.5 or -10, or because everybody in Ontario bets on Buffalo every week. So you bet against Buffalo. But obviously, sharp people are doing this, so you would try to get down, and you get the max liability reach type of thing. Very annoying, but still an option. Single game is still an option over the counter right now. People are extremely confused by this because they've been playing parlays their entire life. They don't even know somehow don't even know what a straight wager is. But yeah, it is just another betting option out there. And people do like the convenience of cash sometimes. I'm just on my way home from work or on my way to work or on lunch. Here's a toonie. We have toonies for the Americans listening in Canada, probably laughing. These Canadians that have a $2 coin. But yeah, you go drop a toonie, get your parlay. You have to hold that ticket as well.
Yeah, Rob likes to deal with those so he doesn't have to show his wife his losing tickets.
Well, sometimes you're already at the convenience store.
It's actually true.
Because I first started betting with ProLine because I had a convenience store right outside my house at school. Some people are going to be at the convenience store anyway, picking up cigarettes or picking up whatever. So you have a bit of extra change. You could throw it on a nice cheeky parlay at ProLine.
Nice
Big
negative
bomb banger.
30% ROI parlay.
Yeah.
It's the odds are actually absurd. Like
Yes, I agree. And once I started actually looking online and stuff, I was looking at the spreads I was betting on. Like, what were these?
Well, listen, like with online gaming becoming so popular here now, and it's going to blow up obviously over the course of the next 6 months. It'd be very easy to just go to ProLine's website because you can still fill out like a ticket online to see what your ticket will pay, right? Before you go play it at the convenience store. You can very easily fill it out there and then go to one of the regulated sports books, like any of them, whether it's FanDuel, DraftKings, PointsBet, BetRivers, whatever. There's going to be tons of options. Put that same parlay in on that site, and you will see how much more it actually pays on an actual sports book than it does on ProLine. And that's like, once people start to see that, I don't know how ProLine is going to exist anymore.
Yeah. I mean, unless they reduce the VIG, get a better provider, and start to market in the ways that are not the ones I was watching earlier today.
And you guys talked about how the Buffalo Bills, the line would move so much in Ontario. So like this is something that I thought I figured out a while ago, but I just want to ask for anyone else that might be wondering the same thing. So the way they establish a line is, of course, it begins at a certain point, but the goal, if I'm correct, of the sports book is to have an even amount of bettors on each side of the bet. So
yes and no.
Okay, so how does it work? How does a live line move?
So it's okay. It's a good question.
Depends on the book.
It depends on the book. Every single book has their own risk appetite. So there will be some books who are just trying to balance action. So they're literally going to, books charge a VIG, minus 110 on both sides. That's where the house edge is, because most people are coin flippers. They're going to win 50% of their bets over time. And the VIG is where the house edge is. Now, some sports books are very risk averse, and they're going to say, yeah, let's just balance action. So regardless of what the outcome is in this game, we have pretty close to equal action on both sides. We're going to win no matter what. There are sports books, however, that have a much higher risk tolerance, and they'll be willing to take a side. You often see sports books, whether they're offshore, regulated, doesn't matter, who say we are cheering for this outcome today. So as a sports book, when you're setting your line, you're mostly going to copy other market-making sports books lines, but you're also going to use your own internal profiles. Every time you make a bet with a sports book, you're providing that sports book with some information on what type of bettor you are. They know who wins in the long run, who loses in the long run. If they see all their winning bettors are betting the same side in a game, the sportsbook may choose to take that side in the sense that they won't move the line. They'll say, you know what? Majority of our action is on this other outcome, but all of our sharper bettors like this outcome. We're gonna root with our bettors.
So they might want to keep 100,000 on the good side and only have 40,000 on the other side.
I was consulting for a major offshore sports book when Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather happened. Okay.
Yeah. Big betting event.
Massive betting
Absolutely
event.
not a once in a lifetime opportunity.
We're not going to get into this again. Definitely a once in a lifetime, but to each their own.
You said Charles Leclerc was a once in a lifetime last year, and he withdrew.
Yes. He his gearbox failed on the formation lap, but that's a story for another day. Mayweather McGregor could not find people who wanted to bet on Floyd Mayweather in that fight. The sports book I was consulting for at that time had a massive liability on McGregor, meaning that if McGregor won, this sports book was going to lose huge, to the point where they were actually taking so many bets that they had to consult with their board of directors to say, listen, we feel like this is way mispriced. Like Mayweather should be a way bigger favorite, but at this price, people are still constantly betting McGregor. What do you want us to do? Board of directors said, just keep taking the bets. And they made a killing off that fight. So you will see instances like that where, honestly, that was probably the case for 90% of the sportsbooks on the planet, where they were all rooting for Mayweather in unison, felt that they were actually not even hanging close to a fair price, but people were still betting McGregor. And
I bet on Conor McGregor.
I bet on Floyd.
So did I. I was at a wedding that night, sweating hard, not even watching the fight, getting texts from my buddies for the first 2 rounds that are like, oh man, Mayweather's in trouble here. Like, McGregor's got to be live favorite, whatever. I turned my phone off. I'm like, dude, that's so much money. And I was literally parlaying people with Floyd Mayweather for a month, like my picks with Floyd Mayweather for a month. Every single time I made a bet, I parlayed it with Floyd Mayweather. Going on, I had a massive amount. It would have been a devastating loss for me.
What was his line again in that? Was he
closing minus 200?
Yeah.
He was
only.
Yeah.
What?
That's the scenario here that happened.
That's crazy.
It's you would say that's a once in a lifetime event, right?
Minus 200, it might be, Johnny. That's crazy.
But you realize one thing about a once in a lifetime event, right? If you say something's a once in a lifetime event, then that at any time it can get overtaken. It's not a once in a lifetime. It might be a 5 in a lifetime. You might get 5 of those.
A handful in a lifetime.
Handful in a lifetime.
Will there ever be a bigger edge in my lifetime than Mayweather in that fight? I don't think there will be.
Yeah, there will. There already is.
In terms of like how much, you're right. I know what you're going to get at, and you're technically right.
I know, but also
from a pure Kelly bet perspective,
however many events there are, you could probably fit all of those in one duffel bag. That's how many events we have. A duffel bag's worth of
you can't put it in your back pocket or your side pocket?
I would not be able to fit it in my person.
Fanny pack? No.
A duffel bag's worth. Anyways, question here from producer Zach, who lost his mic because we had to give it to Jacob here. So sorry, Zach. You just texted it in, which is feel like apps will be important for new bettors. Do we know how many of these companies are releasing apps? That's a great question. So
we're going to open up a Q&A to you guys as well after this.
So for the actual app, some companies were unable to get apps on like the Google Play Store, which feeds all Android phones. Others were unable to get apps on the App Store due to some other, real money wagering requirements and things like that. So ultimately, this is big for actual physical apps that are downloaded from the App Store, because now companies can actually submit those if they're regulated and licensed without a hassle, and they can get it onto Android and Google Play phones, and then also on iPhones via the App Store. So I would say, not all of them are going to have apps just based on technological capabilities. Like, they're not going to have them ready right away. But for the most part, you'll see all of the apps now pop up where you'll be able to have a folder on your iPhone with like your hopefully 20 sports books that you use, hopefully, and betstamp at the forefront. And then you're just going to zip betstamp, compare odds, bang, link over, done, make money, DGen style.
I will say, DGen style.
Big bomb bangers.
We will be launching an extension of the Betstamp website, which will have sportsbook reviews, a lot of sportsbook reviews. Native apps are killer, man. Like, when you get a sportsbook, and there's about a handful of them that are going to have these native apps that are actually built for Android, iOS. They're not just an extension of the website, which are like really, really clean. Those are beautiful to use when they work properly, when they're fast. So I think there's going to be a competitive advantage for those sports books. Obviously, we're in Canada. We all grew up using the Score as our sports betting app. They have actual tie-ins with their actual enterprise app where you can bet straight from within there as well, which I think is a big competitive advantage. I think people will see that in the early going, and it might offset the fact that they won't be launching with a website. So there's going to be like all sorts of little nuances you're going to want to know for every sportsbook. That's why we are putting sportsbook reviews up. And we're also going to have a Discord channel, which will be made available as well.
Yeah, this is big. This is huge. I'm telling everyone here right now, we're going to plug it once, is if you want to make money on sports betting within Ontario, and by no means is this a guarantee you're going to make money, but it's pretty damn close with all the bonuses and stuff.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime event for real. You're not going to get the first week of regulation in Ontario ever again.
Yeah, and it's not even first week. I would say you have about a 3-month window right now where all the books start to pop up with new bonuses and stuff like this. So Now, if you are looking to get into sports betting in any capacity, if you're someone who has one sports book, if you just have a Bet365 account, if you're only betting right now through your buddy from high school from 7 years ago on the PPH account, now is the time to start learning because you have so much free money and bonuses. I've said it before. I'm very, very confident I can take somebody. I could take a rookie bettor, anyone right now, a rookie bettor, and with the right amount of training and the know-how and a decent size starting bankroll. By decent size, I mean potentially like in the range of $10,000 to $20,000 starting bankroll. I think within the first year of sports betting, you can make six figures. You can make $100,000 this year with all the bonuses. No questions asked. Again, not guaranteed money, but you can make $100,000. I think I can take anyone in the world and make them $100,000 within the first year. Secondly, if you don't have a $10,000 starting bankroll and you have a $200 starting bankroll or a $500 starting bankroll, this is your prime chance now with all these bonuses and promos to build that up from 500 to 5,000 to 10,000 within the first year and really start to learn and scale up. So I really think it's a massive opportunity within Ontario right now. If you were for whatever reason serious about it, join our Discord. We're going to be giving out so much info. Everyone's making money.
And honestly, just to add to that, for anyone who thinks that's a sales pitch or it's BS, go listen to 2 episodes ago of CirclesOff where we had Telemachus Model on, who is US based in Virginia, who had legal sportsbooks come to his state, literally in the span of 2 years, turned a 25K bankroll.
No, 5K.
5K bankroll.
2,500.
20 something absurd.
$2,500.
$2,500 bankroll into $250,000. Now, obviously, that entails some hard work and a lot of stuff. And I'm not saying every single person who has a $2,500 bankroll is going to be able to do that. But you could take away a lot from that interview. On top of it, he talks about how he just used the sign-up bonuses to his advantage. He used free play bets to his advantage. He used odds boost to his advantage. So listen to that. You'll gain a lot of meaningful insights. And he is an example of someone who went from a pure, through and through, recreational bettor to what we call semi-pro now, who is making a very good living off of that as well.
Rob,
So
there's 6 sports books in the state that he's from. Not sure. Did we mention what state he was from?
Virginia.
So you mentioned from Virginia. There's 6 active sports books in Virginia. Within Ontario, we may see within the first 6 months upwards of 55 to 60 sports books. If Telemachus was in Ontario instead of Virginia, that $250K bankroll would be $1 million right now. No doubt in my mind, based on the number of votes. Therefore, what I'm saying is join the Discord. I will be in there daily. Rob will be in there daily. We will have a few other members of betstamp who are super into sports betting and active and actually grinding out and trying to make money betting sports, helping other people, giving out plays on what's going to be good, helping people evaluate bonuses, odds boosts, things like that. We are going to make sure as a community, we are all hitting big bomb bangers.
Big bomb bangers.
anything that we haven't touched on that you guys are curious about?
Yeah, so I've been talking about how I use Betway, I use Bet365 today. What can I expect to change with those places? Because I've been betting. I've had no issues withdrawing money, no issues depositing until, well, actually, last month or so I've had issues with RBC, but...
Your bank, not the sportsbook
right,
itself.
Right. With nothing, no problem with the sports book. What can I expect to change in terms of, like, you know, you're talking about these big changes. What should I expect?
So within those particular sports books, which is really only a small handful, there will not be many major changes within those particular books. One thing that did change already is that you saw slight changes in like the payment processing and payment methods. So Bet365 was notoriously hard to get money in and out of because a lot of the payment processors would block the transactions. You'd have to use a third-party processor. They recently, over the last month and a half, added the Interac e-transfer method
Which
ahead
is
of the
what I
regulation.
use today. I
It's
use
so
that today.
good. It's
So
easy.
prior to that, were you able to deposit into a 365 or you didn't have one?
Today was the first day I deposited into 365. With Betway, I could always deposit with my bank, but I had to withdraw with an e-transfer.
There you go. So I think the main change is going to be the payment methods and the ease of withdrawal, the verification process. And obviously, if you do have any issues with the book, now you do have a governing entity to go to. So that's the main change right there. But in terms of the product, gameplay, those apps, those companies are established. They're majority going to be the same.
I will point out there is one other thing as well, which I think is if you are currently betting on a gray market site that is going to be regulated in Ontario, they are required by law to settle all of the bets in their system by midnight of April 3rd and start fresh on April 4th. Now, every sportsbook is handling this differently. So you're going to have to consult with the customer support at your specific sportsbook to just ask them how it's being handled. Some sportsbooks will cancel or void your future bets. Some will void them and issue you a bonus on April 4th. Some will void them, and if you reach back out to them post April 4th, you can rebet them. There's going to be a variety of ways that these are handled. In some cases, like if you have a future at a sportsbook that's going to get voided on that night, and that sportsbook offers early cash out, you're going to want to take the early cash out. It's a no-brainer, right?
Massive edges to be had potentially in other things as well. Like, you know, you can almost free roll book for 4 days, right? So if you're looking at a free, like something like a Lakers, will the Lakers miss the playoffs? If you can still bet that right now, they're out of the playoffs, right? So
Yeah, they're the 11th seed.
You can bet right now still at a dog price, Lakers miss playoffs. And with the expectation that that will be voided on April 4. So you basically have a 3-game free roll right now where if the Lakers win those 3 games, now they're in a position where they should be making the playoffs. And now you can message them, get that feature back. So again, a lot of different stuff here. These are huge edges where you can maybe potentially see a nice free roll in stuff like that. And, you know, I'll be looking out for it and I'll be reading the terms of service. But also these are the things that you're going to get by joining the Betstamp Discord channel. Free money given out, and even more than that, in amazing advice and fun to be had.
Lots of wisdom in there. And I had one more question for you guys. DFS gaming, that's something I didn't know a whole lot about, and apparently it's leaving Ontario?
Yes. So daily fantasy sports. A lot of people actually...
Wait, is this official, by the way? Can we talk about this right now?
FanDuel has confirmed. I've already received an email directly from FanDuel's website with their intentions to leave market. DraftKings, I have not received a formal issuance from them, but it is expected that they are going to follow suit with FanDuel.
Okay, so we'll leave it at FanDuel right now,
correct,
and with the expectation that this is potentially going to impact DraftKings as well.
It does suck. So personally, I am a DFS player. I love it, especially during NFL season. This is daily fantasy sports. Just the idea of I'm not in any season-long leagues. I like to play it on a weekly basis. They will no longer be able to offer paid contests to Ontario residents. So part of the reason why is because of Canadian law that does not allow for liquidity pools cross-province. So basically, if they were going to offer DFS contests to bettors in Ontario or players in Ontario, they would only be able to offer that paid contest within Ontario itself. They cannot share liquidity across borders. Because of that, they're making a decision to pull out of the market. This could change at some point in the future. Canadian law could change, for example. If enough people provide an uproar here or cause an uproar and say like, hey, why can the U.S. do it? Which U.S. is allowed, liquidity pools across, at least for DFS purposes, then we might see some changes happen. So I don't think this is over and done with yet. But for now, those who are on DraftKings and FanDuel, you will be able to FanDuel for sure. DraftKings very likely. I'll preface or just clear.
No, we said we put the disclaimer at the beginning of the show. Now we can say whatever.
Yeah, so you'll be able to withdraw your money. You will not be able to transfer it to the sportsbook.
Oh, really?
You will have to redeposit.
Interesting.
Okay, that's specific from FanDuel's customer service, which I've dealt with now. I can pull my money out of FanDuel. I can redeposit it into the sportsbook, but I will not be able to directly transfer it. So it's got to be independent, but that's actually a really good question because that will affect a lot of people. And I will fight for DFS to be back in Ontario at some point.
You just want to lose extra money.
100%. I am not a winning DFS player anymore. At one time, I did play for a living. Before I became a professional sports bettor, I was a DFS player. Edge dried up real quick.
What was that tweet that you put out? I was laughing hard.
So FanDuel, there was an article that was alluding to FanDuel leaving the market. And I don't remember the exact tweet, but it was something along the lines of, it was a good one. Well, I'll plug my Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Rob Pizzola. Search my FanDuel tweet. I thought it was pretty funny and clever in real time.
Let me see what he put. It was actually pretty funny. Okay, so it was a tweet that said, FanDuel to stop offering daily fantasy sports contests in Ontario. And then Rob quote tweeted and said, could have just titled this, Rob Pizzola to stop losing money on DFS in Ontario.
Yeah, it is fun though. I will miss that.
At the end of Rob's Periscope, he always says this. All right, it's he goes, okay, all right, it's just past noon. Time for me to throw a couple DFS darts.
Which, by the way, I do preach betting early, which is important. For DFS, it doesn't matter. So just to clarify out there, anyone who might say, oh, Rob's always telling me not to wait till the last minute to bet. DFS is very different from betting. Don't wait till the last minute to bet. It's a very bad idea. Bet early. Any other things that we want to go over here? I'm just thinking off the top of my head.
I have a question. So you were talking a lot about bonuses and how bonuses are going to be a big part of how you can make money in the next few months as regulations imposed. How do you feel about, so I've typically, with my free bets, gone with a little bit more ambitious bets because it's a free bet. How do you guys feel about that? What's the best strategy with those free bets?
For sure. Okay, so before we get into that question, then Jacob, we'll talk about the bonuses. That's massive. That's first and foremost for anyone listening. Okay, so why we're saying you can make so much money right now in Ontario from sports betting is because all of these sports books are in a competitive zone where there's so many of them, right? So if there's, let's say, compare it with anything else. If there's 2 retailers, there's 2 gas stations, the prices might not be as competitive. If there's 25 gas stations, then this guy's going to have a loyalty program. This one has this one's leading you in with this, and so on and so forth. So within the sportsbook community right now, some states, for example, Oregon, only has one single operator. They can offer whatever pricing they want. There's the Montana State Lottery, which offers pricing minus 42 a side for straight bets.
Yep.
They can offer whatever they want because there's no other operator. Within Canada, within Ontario right now, if Bet365 says tomorrow, we're minus 15 for hockey betting now. If you want to bet the Leafs, it's now minus 15 a side instead of minus 10, which is higher commission that they're taking. Another operator will say, okay, well, we're still minus 10. Come bet it here. Someone else like, whoa, we're minus 109. And someone else might be minus 105. And someone else is going to say, oh, we've got this as a special promo today, so come bet it here. More competition equals better opportunities for the bettors. So these bonuses, usually within the offshore space, you look at getting a sign-up bonus, and the rough expected value usually equates to around $200 in bonus. You might deposit $200, get $200 free, or you might deposit $500, get a $500 free play with an expected value of $250 or $200. Within the current regulated market within Canada, based on some of the offers we're seeing and privy to right now, it looks like the expected value on the bonuses is going to be well north of $300 per bonus, right? If you max it out and use it correctly. So what that means is, just do the math real quick right now. Just sign up bonuses. If there's 50 different sports books and you can make $300 a book, that's already a very, very nice starting point. On top of that, where it really comes in is the actual loyalty / customer engagement portion of it, where you're going to just open your account one day or get an email saying okay, bet on the Leafs tonight, get a $50 free bet if you bet on the Leafs tonight, or, do this and get this. You will have to opt into those within the Ontario law right now, which I would recommend you guys do opt in to all sportsbook promotions. Sometimes it is a little annoying to get spam emails, but, spam email to me is something that's trying to make me spend money, not something that's saying hey, bet on the Leafs tonight, and if they lose, then you get your 50 credited back tomorrow.
I wouldn't view it as a spam email. Some cases, yes, but more often than not, it's an opportunity.
Absolutely. So within those sign-up bonuses, as Jacob mentioned, first and foremost, you need to read the terms. So you are going, again, we will help you calculate everything to do with this within the betstamp Discord. So join there as well. It's Discord. For those who don't know, it's like a social app. You can chat. There's different channels. Make a username.
And we're gonna tweet it from our betstamp account.
We will tweet it from our betstamp account, and you can find it there. Basically, join it. If you don't want to join under your real name, you want to be secure, make an alias. Make it 121279
Jabroni 69.
Whatever you want.
That's actually my account. So
join under whatever Discord name you want. Doesn't matter. We're not gonna ever ask you for money. It's a free Discord. We're helping you. We're helping people make money, and what we are, full transparency, we're trying to get you guys to use Betstamp and grow our product. We're not asking for money. It's free to be in there. It's never going to be a paid Discord, stuff like that. But when you go in there, we'll teach you how to evaluate some of these things. But one of the main things is when they give you a bonus, there's terms and conditions attached. So we'll show you how to read those. Some sports books will pay back the bonus amount in what's called a free bet, which Jacob has asked about. So what a free bet is, or a risk-free bet, or a can't lose bet, or whatever, like each book calls it a certain thing, is essentially this. If you bet, you get that credit. So you'll have a $200 free bet in your account. You bet it on something. If it loses, the free bet goes away and no balance has been deducted from your account. If it wins, it's going to pay back the net win amount, but not the risk amount because it was a zero risk. So essentially, if you're logging that bet in betstamp or in some sort of tracker, what you would risk is zero. What you would win is $250, assuming you bet on a plus 100, even money, underdog. So if that's the case, what Jacob's asked is, should you take shots on your free bets? And the answer is absolutely yes. Best expected value on the free bet, because of the fact that you only receive the risk amount as a zero. You don't actually get that back. So all you receive is the win amount. You never want to be betting a high minus. You never want to be taking a minus 1,000. You'd much rather take a plus 1,000 to get paid out way more.
Funny enough, sorry to cut you off. Funny enough, I think we've talked about it on this show before. The sportsbook will actually restrict you sometimes from taking a big minus, which actually makes no sense. They would rather you do that. Sorry to cut you off in it, but anyone who sees that, they might say, oh, the sportsbook doesn't want me to take a big favorite. These guys don't know what they're talking about. I can assure you, we know what we're talking about from an expected value point of view. You do not want to put that 250 on like a minus 500 and it wins and you only get $50 in your account, when you could put that 250 on a bigger parlay, a long shot, something where you score big. The expected value in the long run is way better on that.
I'm gonna calc it in Excel right now and walk you guys through it because it seems like you're a little confused on the math, and we can have Zach pull up the graphic. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Decent idea. All right. So for simplicity, we're gonna say you have $1,000 free bet. Okay. Just so it's, you know what? Let's make it 100. So you have $100 free bet in your account right now. Okay. So now we're gonna do two examples. We're gonna do the example of a minus 1,000, and then we're gonna do the example of betting on a plus 1,000. Fair enough. Okay. So for the simplicity of this, what do you want the plus 1,000 to be? Give me a bet.
Plus 1,000. Raptors to win the chip.
That's gonna be more than plus 1,000, brother.
Raptors to win. Not even the East will be.
Okay, so you got the Raptors.
To the
also, you
finals.
probably won't be able to bet this on futures bets. Again, it'll all be in the terms.
Bad example.
So let's say plus 1,000. Let's say it's a 3-team parlay for tonight. Okay.
Okay.
So you have a 3-team parlay for tonight at plus 1,000. Okay. So
Raptors, Leafs, Jays.
So you have two.
Perfect.
You have two scenarios here. Number one is that parlay loses and you're at zero. Okay. So now your net is zero. Number two is that parlay wins and you net out 100 at plus 1,000, which is $1,000 net. Okay. So you get in that $1,000 if you win it, zero if you lose. Okay. Next scenario, you're going to risk 100 as well, but this time it's on a minus 1,000. So now if you win that bet, you're going to win 10. This might be betting a huge favorite in the NFL. You bet on whatever.
Bet on in the fourth quarter when they're up by 20.
You won't be able to do it on a live bet, but let's say you bet on the biggest favorite, Green Bay versus Jacksonville, with Devontae Adams still on Green Bay, whatever you want to call it.
You probably find something on an MMA card that week.
Yeah. Potentially minus 1,000, something like that. So now you have $100 and you have 10 if you win. So if you lose the bet, you end up with zero, as always. If you win the bet, you end up with 10. Okay. So here is the key in terms of actually figuring this out, is you need to factor in what the percentage is of winning each of those bets. Now you could do it with the hold, but I will do it just without for right now. With the hold for right now. So minus 1,000 is an implied win probability of 90.91. It should be 90.91.
Yeah.
Okay. And then plus 1,000 is going to be 9.09. No vig. Okay. So when I put those in to my sheet here, so you have 90.09% and then you have 9.09. Zach, you're pulling this graphic up, I hope, after for anyone watching on YouTube. All right. So basically, here's what you got now. You have a 90% chance at winning $10. Okay. So you do $10, 90% chance, expected value, just call it $9 for simplicity. Okay. So if you bet it on the minus 1,000, your expected value is a 90% chance to win $10, which is $9. If you bet it on the plus 1,000, you're going to win 1,000 if you win. Okay. But your chances of winning is only 9%. Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of being $9 and being 90% of $10, you're now 9% of $1,000, which is $90.
Your expected value is $90.
So just by betting on a plus 1,000 versus a minus 1,000, your expected value on that bet is $90 instead of $9.
10 times.
Yeah, framing it that way makes it a whole lot more logical, honestly.
It's a probability thing, right?
It's just straight probability. And the reason why, for those who are listening and are like, well, how is it like that? It's because you don't get the risk amount back. If you were risking an amount, if this was just a regular bet, these would add up to the exact same, assuming no vig. Right. Because what happens in a regular bet is you are likely to get your 100 back. So if you get your $100 back plus the 10, then now you're at 110 net times the 90%. And in this scenario, you're at 100 times that. It ends up being the same. But since you don't get the 100 back in risk amount because it's just sitting in your account, it's a free bet, it exits to zero, you are now going to end up getting 10x the expected value by doing something over something else. This applies to everything. Plus 250 versus a minus 100. Producer Zach sent me a couple of screenshots after I explained this to him.
Free bet master.
He is the free bet king right now. What did you hit? I know you don't have a mic, but
I had St. Peter's plus 650. The night before I had Golden State plus 500. Wow.
Golden State plus 500,
St. Peter's plus
650 money line.
And then I had another one the day before back.
So there you go. Like he's just betting them on the biggest dogs Arkansas as well.
One.
So by betting those where you're not even really like, it doesn't take a genius to go and just bet the biggest on the board. But if you actually calculate it, and again, like I just showed you how to calculate it real quick, we can go do the math. We'll put it on screen. If you're on YouTube, we can clip this as well. But realistically, these are things you're going to learn in the Discord from us as well, from other members of the team that are going to bring you like that one bet, that one specific bet. You just got $90 instead of $9 for no reason from $100 free play, right? That expected value is insanity to be able to actually just shift it that much, because we're not talking about giving $100 free plays out with these bonuses. Some books are giving 1,000. Yep. So if you're getting $1,000 free play, now your actual difference is hundreds of dollars that you were wasting by just using suboptimal strategy.
Correct. So even on that $100 free play where your EV is $90, now imagine you're opening an account at 20, 30 sports books. You're just multiplying that expected value across every single one of those sports books. And that's what you would expect to earn off of all those free bets combined. So there are huge advantages to taking advantage of the free bet in that way. It is the proper way to do it, just from a pure math perspective. Obviously, there's some luck involved. There might be people out there who bet a bunch of underdogs and they all lose. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. There might be people out there like Zach who bet at every underdog and they just win on every account. I mean, you're no offense, Zach, but obviously you would know that that's lucky as well. But that's the reality of how you should approach it. The only one thing I will say, which is very, very important for people in Ontario to note, because it's very different from the US. The US, you will see these promotions advertised everywhere. You're watching a football game on TV, a basketball game. The exact details of the promotion are advertised right there. Ontario law prohibits the sportsbook from doing that. So it's not that the sportsbooks are not offering that to you in Ontario. They are offering that to you. If you go to betstamp and you click through to every single sportsbook from there, we have a lot of exclusive offers with sportsbooks that you will get just for being a betstamp member, but you can compare every single site just by clicking every single one of those. They can't advertise it to you on your TV or on a billboard on the highway or whatever, and we can't do it either. But if you do that, you will see all the promos. So you're going to have to do a little bit extra work than an American would have to do this stuff, but they do exist. So don't worry that these are not being offered in Ontario because you're not seeing them marketed to you. The sportsbook legally cannot market it to you.
Yes, and nor can anyone online. So you won't see a commercial or anything like that advertises like go to DraftKings and get $500 free bets at there. But what you will see obviously is that on the actual site. So realistically, we're going to be ranking, we're going to be evaluating all these things and showing everyone what to do and kind of how to make these things do it. These are things that also, like, you know, when new stuff might pop up, that's good. You know, if you're in the Discord, you know, someone might end up shooting you shooting a notification or something like that. Like there's going to be a group, a community right now. So we haven't launched it yet. It'll be launching on Saturday, but this is going to be an amazing community of people who are all in Ontario. We're going to all be looking to crush the bookies, as they say. Anyways, last thing on there for the bonuses front is a lot of these bonuses come with a rollover, which what a rollover is the sports book. They're not dumb, right? So they're not going to let you deposit in, make $1,000, withdraw it, take your 1,000 in pocket and leave, whatever. That's not the purpose of the promo, and nor should it be. The purpose of the promo is to have you try out that sports book and see if that's the one for you. You know, we're all betting. We all want to make sure that we've got a sports book that's going to do it. So they put what's called a rollover on any bonus requirements, meaning if you've deposited and taken $1,000 bonus from us, you've got to roll that over 5 times or whatever it might be, 3 times, 10 times, 8 times, depending on the bonus. You've got to bet that amount minimum 3 times before you can take your money out with that bonus. You can always take your money out, but you will have to forfeit that bonus amount that you got. So obviously you don't want to forfeit it. You want to get the bonus, and then you might have to bet 3 more times. So you have to bet a cumulative extra 1,000 or extra 3,000 depending on that. So that's kind of what a rollover is. But in terms of how to use it, we're also going to be talking a lot of strategy in the Discord, as well as right now, I guess, on how to roll that over. So Rob mentioned, what if you're just betting all dogs and you lose all your money? Like, tough, could happen. But what you could also do is try to take advantage of these bonuses by doing other things, and maybe making sure that you're locking in some profits, hitting some rollovers, making sure you're picking off really good numbers across the board. Now, the bonuses, as I mentioned, what they are intended to do is have you try out that sportsbook. In no scenario should you be like bonus hunting and abusing these bonuses at the sportsbook. It's not what I would recommend doing. For me personally, if there's going to be 50 sportsbooks in Ontario, what I want to do is, it's kind of unrealistic unless you're going to be at it every single day to actually manage, keep balances in 50 different sports books, deposits, withdraw, verifications. It's tough. And realistically, I know nobody is going to use 50 different sports books at once for the recreational bettor. But that being said, there's no reason you can't try out all 50. Get the bonuses at each and play through them and give the sports book some action. And then when you're done and you don't like that book anymore, either withdraw, might lose your money in one book, might make double in another book. Withdraw your money and then, keep it down to a range of 4 to 5 sports books that you use on a daily basis. Add those to your rotation, link them with betstamp, and then now you've experienced sports betting for what it should be. You've built up your bankroll to the point now where you can be betting a little bit more, having more fun, or betting, I wouldn't say larger amounts. I meant more in terms of a sense of you can be betting more often, things like that. But in order to do that, you really have to try all the sports books to see, and then you might end up saying Bet365 is amazing for live betting, but it's not really good for this prop, or this bet has the best futures and they always have the golf tournament futures up on the Monday right when I want to bet them. So this is in my rotation now. Another book might have, every time I want to bet on the Leafs, there's a promo on this book. So I'm keeping this one, you know what I mean? And if you keep 4 or 5 in your rotation, that's the way to master sports betting as a recreational bettor.
Best way. That's really well put, because obviously people are always going to come to me and say, what sports books should I bet at? I always follow that up with 15 questions for them, right? Because it's not the same for everyone. Yep. At the end of the day, what's important to me might not be important to you, Josh, or to you, Jacob, or to Johnny as well. There's just different factors. I bet at some smaller sites, which some people would never even consider betting at, but I like the speed at which they get their NHL lines posted, for example. I like the fact that potentially that they have a mobile app that is nice. There's some sites that don't have a desktop application. You can't go to their website. There's some that don't have a mobile app. Well, okay, if I'm at a computer all day long and I'm at work and I place all my bets on desktop, then why would I ever use a site or want to use a site where the desktop version is crappy, right? And vice versa. If I'm always on the run and I'm placing bets on my phone, if I'm a truck driver or whatever, then why am I going to want to download the app or use the app with the best desktop experience? I want to use a good mobile app. So to each their own. I do agree with Johnny. You might hear something bad about one book, which would deter you from depositing into it. This has happened to probably all of us before, where somebody says, this book is garbage or whatever, and then you go bet at it and you're like, actually, you know what? I'm making a ton of money here. I think it's great. You kind of have to just experience that yourself. I mean, that's the reality of things. Yeah. You can read sportsbook reviews. We can recommend stuff for sure. There are obviously going to be some best in breed sportsbooks, which are just great experiences for pretty much everybody. But without experiencing it yourself, you'll never know.
A couple of years ago, I wanted to sign up for one of gray area sports books here. And a buddy of mine told me, nah, don't sign up there. It's literally the worst book I've ever played with. I hate that book. Like, not worth it. I ended up signing up and like still use it to this day and love that book. And when I went back and asked him a couple months later, I was like, why do you hate this? Why'd you hate this book? It's actually so good. He's like, oh, they don't have live betting at all. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I don't even live bet. Like, right. I don't do much live betting. So like, I didn't care about that. Right. So it really is a matter of like personal preference in a sense of what sports books you're going to use. And everybody, like, it's so crazy because like obviously most people bet the same stuff as their buddies and you'll go around and share info and be on the same side, sweat the bets together and stuff like that. But that is a prime example of like, what if you just don't live bet? Then are you just going to write that site off? They might have the best odds for something, amazing promos, clean interface, but they don't have live betting. Maybe a site one specific site always has odds for curling and you bet curling. You need that site. Yep. You know what I mean? That's got to be in your rotation of books.
There's all sorts of things. Like I'll throw out the name of an operator, but Casumo. For me, this is my personal opinion. I don't like the interface because I'm used to a very traditional sportsbook layout. You know, I've used Bet365 growing up, Sports Interaction, all those sites. I still continue to use them now. Casumo is very different. It's very gamified, right? It looks different. One of my best friends who's like video gamer and whatever and plays a lot of mobile games, Casumo is his favorite book. Like, he's like, I can't believe you don't like this. So it's like to each their own, right? Every mobile experience, desktop experience is going to speak differently to different people. It's just not for me. It's for other people. So that's just one example because and I only use Casumo as an example because it's a non-traditional layout. So people will know what I'm talking about if they hit the site. But I think that's just good advice. Figure out what works best for you and don't try to kind of fit in the mold of somebody saying, oh, you have to bet at this sports book or whatever. If it doesn't fit what you want to do as a bettor, then don't bet there and find out a better site or a site more suited to you.
Exactly. What else we got? Any other questions?
I think we pretty much covered everything. I think this was pretty loaded.
Covered the bonuses, we covered the rollovers, we covered the types of betting within Ontario.
Don't even have to worry about deposit and withdrawal because you'll have every option available to you as a Canadian that you would need to deposit and if you're looking
personally for the rec better, by the way, like e-transfer is the way to go because you don't have to give any of your personal info. So just a quick recap on how it works. There's payment processors that work within Canada, two major ones, and basically, so you'll go to the sportsbook and you'll click deposit and you'll click interact e-transfer. They will populate a little screen that says, okay, send an e-transfer from your bank to this email address and send this amount of money, which is whatever you choose to deposit, and put this little code in the message. And then you do that. As soon as your e-transfer sends, that money gets credited into your betting account. Just like that. You do not have to send in your personal info. They do not receive information about your bank, how much is in your bank. There's no credit card associated. Like, it's such an easy, simple method where it's essentially just a lower risk, quick method that everybody has. If you have a Canadian bank, which you should, then you have Interact e-transfer. So that would be my preferred method for anyone who's looking to deposit. And this is for if you're looking to deposit $5, 500 or 5,000, it's still going to work the best.
The last thing I think that's important to touch on, and we definitely should here, is responsible gaming. At the end of the day, there's a lot of money to be made in Ontario. There's these sports books that are coming from the US especially, or even big UK books that are operating in Ontario, wherever they may be. They have massive marketing budgets. They are looking to get your business. It can work in your advantage, but remember to bet within your limits. At the end of the day, yes, you want to take advantage of as much of this stuff as possible, but if you cannot afford to have $5,000 tied up in different sports books, then don't do it. At the end of the day, if you're sweating your bets to the point where it's uncomfortable, you have anxiety, you have way too much in play, you need to dial it back, only bet what you can afford to lose. And we did an episode on bankroll management. You always start with what your bankroll is going to be for the purposes of betting. And this is an amount of money where if everything went wrong and I lost this amount of money, it's not going to affect my well-being or my day-to-day. And that's the starting point for everyone. Figure out what your bankroll is. You're very unlikely to lose that entire bankroll with the amount of bonuses that you're going to be getting, with welcome bonuses, promotions, whatever. And if you're spreading it around, very unlikely. With that said, it can happen. There is the possibility of busting for everyone. So
Bet within your limits, bet responsibly. If you're uncomfortable at any point, you need to take a step back. And if it ever becomes a problem, obviously seek help, because problem gaming is a real thing and people do have addictive personalities. We all know some people that it might be gambling, it might be whatever. It doesn't matter. Just really want to preach that. Bet responsibly.
Yeah, for sports betting, bet responsibly. It's also just a major issue on casino as well that I'd like to touch on. Is like all of these operators, now that casino regulation has come in as well, will be offering online casinos, and online casino addiction is real, and it's very, very, very hard to stop once you like kind of get in the hole and you're just constantly betting more money and more money. And the difference between an online casino and an in-person casino is significant, because an in-person casino, if you're sitting at a roulette table, that roulette wheel is only going by maybe every 3.5, 4 minutes, 5 minutes even. When you're at an online casino and you can table hop and just zip, 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 like, 10 grand can go in 1 second. Whereas at a regular casino, you might be a little more in control. So everyone be very careful with the online casino stuff. I'm not saying that it's not fun to dunk $5 on roulette and, maybe play $50 one night, like for sure within reason, but be careful. For online casino, you're definitely going to want to set some some limits that you can lose in one particular day, just so you're not tilting. If you do have that problem, if you are that person, make sure, please, 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 that you're not just dunking away money on online casino, because it's so easy to lose so much so fast given the quick turnaround. With sports, you can bet whatever you want on the Maple Leafs. That game is lasting for 3 hours and you're watching that whole game and you're going to sweat up and downs and stuff like that. So the max amount you're losing is over 3 hours. With online casino and the amount of clicks, just make sure everyone's very careful.
Good point. I hope everyone found this informative. It's a very exciting time for Ontarians for sure, and for those provinces that haven't been regulated in Canada yet or are going to see operators, it's coming in the near future. Same with a various amount of states where we're seeing more regulation as well. So hopefully this gets some playback when other states and provinces start to legalize. Obviously, we talked about it a few times, but follow Betstamp on Twitter. We will tweet out the Discord channel for everyone in Ontario who wants to join. Obviously, we preach downloading Betstamp and using the app on a day-to-day basis. It is extremely helpful. Our producer, Zach, in the span of, I think we hired Zach in November. I would be very confident giving him my money to bet right now.
He's up 780 grand. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
But he's actually done fairly well, and it's all actually verified on our platform as well. So, we can, we've been turning around internal employees. You guys will be next, although you've come around too as well.
To be fair, Zach just keeps betting Austin Matthews to score a goal every game.
He literally does.
He can't stop.
It's a money machine.
It is. He's honestly, he finds the best price. He finds the best price all the time. So that's what matters. It's an exciting time. So please download Betstamp. And then last thing, if you did enjoy this, YouTube, hit the thumbs up. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes as well, please like. And if you are using the Betstamp app, please rate and review it. We do value that feedback. We use a lot of it in our development roadmap and everything like that. But we hope that you are enjoying the app. This has been a monumental episode, number 50, episode 50 of Circles Off. Peace.